Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. To Australian women, I will say, chatting today, all the way from, I shouldn't say all the way, but from Western Sydney. Welcoming to the show, Lara Wentworth. Welcome, Lara.
Hi, Bea. Thank you for having me. It's
No,
great to be here.
thank you. I'm always excited to love talking internationally, but always get thrilled when I have amazing women like yourself locally as well coming on the show. So,
Thank you.
yeah, very exciting. I want to just firstly celebrate who you are and successes, and then get you to tell us a bit about your backstory, and we can go from there if it's okay with you.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good.
Co-founder and director of Coaching Advocates, which was established 5 years ago. It's a coaching and training firm serving lawyers, executives, and leadership teams. It's certified master practitioner and trainer in NLP. I can never pronounce that, so I'll let you pronounce that later. I always get the neuro, like, yeah. Anyway, I won't even go
That one.
there. Lara specializes in mindset and performance, which we all need, helping professionals develop self-awareness, communication, and leadership capability. And given that you're a lawyer pre starting your own business, it makes sense that you're particularly focused within the legal sector, but obviously that translates out beyond the legal sector. You're
Yeah.
an international keynote speaker and facilitator delivering the CPD, which is the continuing professional development to the profession, women in leadership in particular. Tell us about your journey, Lara, because it sounds quite fascinating that you're a lawyer and then you've
Yeah.
become,
Yeah.
coaching advocates. I'd love to hear about, how that all happened and transpired.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like a million years ago now, but I'm sure it wasn't. It was around, so I was a lawyer for a long time. I did mostly family law, and wasn't one of those lawyers who traveled and worked in other countries and did all that kind of fun stuff. I was pretty much in the same firm pretty much my entire career, but I loved it. I'm a homely kind of person, so I liked being in my space. I loved the people that I worked with. I just got to a point. So I was a partner at the firm, small firm that I was in. I got to a point where I was turning 40, and I often think, I wonder if that had anything to do with it,
Our
but
turning
maybe.
40 cycle. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, it's just like, oh wow, it's a real, I suppose, reflection point. Let's call it that. I call it halftime. Where
Ooh, I
you
like
get to, yeah, where you get to go. Okay, so that's been an interesting first half of my career. I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've built some great friendships. What do I want the second half of my career to look like? And interestingly, the answer to that question kept coming back as something other than what I was doing, but I wasn't quite sure what that was. It just sort of kept coming back as something else, something different, something that allows me space to really be myself and grow in different ways. So I searched and yeah, I just kind of searched, did a lot of personal development, went to a lot of webinars, read a lot of books. And eventually I landed on coaching as the thing that I need to be doing for the second half of my career. And that's kind of where that all started. I wasn't sure what kind of coach, who I would coach, where I would coach. I just knew I loved people. I loved watching people succeed. I loved being in people's corner, cheering them on and helping them get to where they wanted to go. And I just thought there needs to be more of that in the world. And away I went. That's kind of how it all started.
Wow. So
Yeah.
did you quit your job straight away, or
Mm.
like how did it work for you? What was your transition? Because
Yeah.
I have this notion of your first half, and I'm intrigued that you said it's around the 40-year mark, given like that's your first half. Yeah, so
Yeah.
how did you transition out once you knew that your calling was to be a coach for the second half of your career?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I needed a coach for that because, my instinct was just to quit my job and do this thing. But then the reality of life took hold and it wasn't that easy. I still had to pay bills and contribute to school fees and groceries and other things. It wasn't as easy as doing that. And I'd never advise anybody to just quit your job and do something different because like I said, there's realities that we have to kind of do. So I transitioned out. So it took about 3 years or so. So I was a partner at the firm. I started looking at a succession plan for the division that I was leading, started to recruit people that could take over from me. started to coach, but on the side so that I was getting the experience I needed. Enrolled in some training courses and got some qualifications. So did the NLP training and other things to help me get some experience as well. And slowly sort of pulled myself out of one world and inserted myself into another world. And then eventually there came a point where I had to let go of one and jump over to the other one. And it was kind of calculated. I thought about how much money I needed to be able to survive in between, in that transition period. Once I saw that my coaching business had some potential and could potentially earn me an income, and I was earning a little bit of income from it, that felt safer then to kind of move across. So, a bit of planning, a lot of coaching, 3 years in the making, a lot of goal setting, but well worth it.
Yeah, interesting. It's so interesting you talk about that because sometimes you have that choice where you finish your first half of your career, if you like, and then
Mm-hmm.
you go, okay, well, what do I want to do next? And you have
Mm.
that chance to transition. And then there's other people or other times where it's like that first half just ends, for example, could be a redundancy or whatever. And then it's like, what do I do now? And there's no kind of
Mm. Yeah.
um something to, I guess, lean back on just as you're transitioning. Do you see
Yeah.
that? Like, do you see that much in like from in the people that you're
Mm.
working with?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Sometimes it's a choice. Like for me, it was a choice, and I could plan it out and I could think about it and I could transition out to some extent on my own terms. Obviously, I have to take into consideration the firm's needs and clients' needs and other things. But yeah, there are some people that just have change thrust upon them and they've got to navigate that
Yeah.
somehow. It may not be something that they chose or want, but it's still there. Those transitional moments happen whether we like them or not, a lot of the
Mm,
time. So,
mm.
yes, and that takes effort, takes emotion, takes energy. We've got to overcome lots of challenges and fears. So yeah, absolutely. I see that a lot and I help people through that quite a bit.
Yeah, because that's a mindset piece, right? Like, can I
Yeah,
do this? Like, with when you were in
yeah,
your transition, what was that like for you from a mindset perspective where you knew that
yeah.
the old world was finishing or the first half was finishing, if you like? And you're like, okay, because you probably went from, a partner at a firm, law firm, to then how do I'm going to make this work. I'm probably not earning what I was earning. And then you're almost redefining, reshaping what success looks like as well
Absolutely.
in your own head.
Yeah.
I grappled with that a lot,
Mm,
originally. And sometimes I still get caught up on myself in it where
mm,
I'm like, oh, like,
mm.
how did you navigate your way through that? And then,
Yeah. It's a tricky one. I think for a long time it held me back from making any decisions. This fear of how will I make this work? What would I, you know, how will I give something up that I've known my entire adult life? I was a lawyer. Everybody knew me as a lawyer.
yeah,
I had built a network and people and whatever. And I was, like I said, in a firm that I absolutely adored. People were like my second family. It was really hard to just sort of say, okay, now it's something new, time for something new. But I think by that point, the way I describe it is this. I, Looking back, this calling kind of kept knocking for a long time. And in life, we hear the calling. Sometimes it's a whisper, sometimes it's just a quiet kind of little whisper in the ear, and we may not be ready for it, so we ignore it or we just distract ourselves with something else and we do something else. Can you hear my bird, by the way?
I can
If you
hear a
can.
little tweet, but it's cute. I'm enjoying it. Like it's
Are
on
you
the
okay with that? Okay, I
yeah,
can
yeah,
close
yeah.
my
And I don't know where
doors.
my puppy's gone somewhere.
Yeah.
He must be back
It's a,
asleep again. So
Yeah, he's normally quiet, but the minute I get on a Zoom is his cue to start squawking. So I apologize to your
no, no, no,
listeners.
no, no, it's totally fine.
We're in the jungle over here.
Yeah,
Anyway.
yeah, I love it.
So, yeah, so we hear this calling, and I ignored that calling for a long time because I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't have the courage. I didn't have the just the know-how of what would I do as a coach? How will I earn a living? Is that something that people actually do for work? I knew I was good at it because I did it everywhere I went, sort of instinctually, and people even come to my house, and there'd be lots of conversations, and I would just be coaching people. And so I ignored that call for a whisper for, and then it got louder and it got louder. And then eventually I couldn't ignore it anymore. It became like a deafening siren that kept going off, like an alarm system that I just could not ignore. So I went off, took myself off, and I did a Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within
Oh
weekend
yeah.
and, walked on fire, did all that kind of stuff, and totally kind of went, oh my God, I was just like, stripped bare almost, you know what I mean? I just felt so,
Yeah.
so renewed, but I still didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't walk out of there going, oh my God, I know exactly what I'm meant to be doing with my life. This is it. And then I thought maybe it's just to be a really good lawyer. Maybe that's what it is for me. But it was that kind of maybe feeling, like it wasn't energizing. And then about a month later, it landed for me. I was at another webinar, another seminar, because I just kept going. I was so thirsty to sort of really work out, to crack this nut open, work out what am I meant to be doing. And it kind of landed, and it was just like the skies opened, the doves came out, the heavens were just calling. It was so clear. And I remember I called my husband from the bathroom. I'm like, babe, I've worked it out. I know exactly what I meant to do. And his response was, how much is it going to cost? I had by that point signed up to that many courses and whatever else. And I'm like, it's just another 4 grand, but I promise I'll make it back because, of course, I was buying another course. Anyway, but that was it. And once I knew, like once I was, on that course, the fear had disappeared. Like all of the trepidations, the uncertainty, the doubt had left the building. And I was like a freight train. I just was on this mission to get to where I was going. I remember, I'd get up every morning, I'd do my morning routine, and I would visualize my future. And there was this just amazing surge of energy that would come over me. This anyway, I can't tell you. It was just like the most powerful thing and just propelled me forward. I was just like on a mission. There was nothing going to stop me. And so I didn't know, like now looking back, I'm like, how the hell did I do that? But I was just in such a frame of mind of this is my second half. And I'll be damned if I let myself get to 80 and look back and go, I never had a go at this.
I
I was not going to
love
let that
that.
happen.
I love
Yeah.
that. That's just so empowering because,
Yeah.
I totally get when your soul is screaming at you because that's what I
Mm.
call your soul. It's your soul, right? And I know that
Mm.
deafening sound as I had it as well, but it was just like
Mm.
this. Like some days I'd just be like, stop, because I'm like, it was like screaming at me in the end, and I had to listen. I finally had to listen, so I
Absolutely.
totally understand that. But
Yeah.
I love the way you just describe that and the fact that, if you get to 80
Mm.
and reflect back on what you've done and haven't got to where you ought, I shouldn't say got to, but like accomplished, fulfilled what your calling
At
is,
least try, right?
at
At
least
least
try it.
try it.
Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
so,
I couldn't do that. I
no.
couldn't do that.
And
Yeah.
so then so you work with lawyers or you work in the
Yeah.
legal sector, I should say. So
Yeah.
then in terms of mindset and performance,
Mm.
like so you've set up your coaching company, your coaching
Mm.
business, co-founder, and then
Hmm.
you've gone and now you're working back in the legal sector.
Hmm.
So are you working with people that are at a crossroads or are
Mm.
they in a leadership? Like how does that work?
Mm.
Like in terms of what you're specializing in?
So it's not just me, I should say. There's 22 coaches now who coach for coaching advocates, and
Wow.
we're across the world, so we're global. But we all have a very similar mission. We're very like-minded in the sense that we've come from that world. We know the pressures, we know the demands, we know the mindset glitches that can really get us into trouble as lawyers. And we've all been coached and we've all come out of that feeling like there is another way. Some of us are still practicing. Some of, like my business partner, Claire Bibby, she still practices, and some of our coaches around the world still own their own firms, etc. And a lot of us don't practice anymore. But because we've been there, we know what it's like. We speak from experience and we can coach lawyers in a way that, for example, I wish I was coached when I was going through, my difficulties or navigating decisions or trying to balance my life, my responsibilities outside of work with the long hours that I had to do as a lawyer, the fear, the doubt, the imposter syndrome, all that stuff that comes with being a really sort of high performing elite athlete almost, which is what lawyers kind of like to compare themselves to in a lot of the ways they are. And so it's crazy. It felt crazy for me that we don't have people like coaches alongside us, helping us be at our best. And so when we set up coaching advocates, in fact, before I set up coaching advocates, I was working on just by myself, and I thought, who can I coach? Like, who are my people? You do a lot of marketing courses. They tell you you've got to find a niche. You can't be everything to everyone. All that kind of marketing stuff. And you're like, oh, why? I just want to coach everyone. But I'm glad I listened because all those years of being a lawyer have now paid off in the work that I do because I now coach, we all coach lawyers. So yes, we coach them in lots of different, for lots of different reasons. It might be that they're going through a career crossroads and they need to make a decision about where to from here. They might be lacking confidence or motivation in the job or the career that they're in, and they need that little boost, or they need that confidence boost to help them move forward. They might be going for partnership or a promotion, and there's some things that they need to work on, people skills, business development skills, relationship building skills. So it could be a mindset glitch, and that's kind of my specialty where I come in, with the NLP work, the neuro linguistic
Yeah, I
programming.
was about to say, I knew it was that. I'm always like getting myself tongue-tied with
I
that.
know.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's funny you're getting yourself tongue-tied with the linguistics part. But anyway.
That's exactly it.
But that's that sort of the study of how do we create these programs with the language that we use in our day to day? How do we create those unconscious programs that then manage our day to day lives? So we have unconscious programs for pretty much everything we do. And as lawyers, we definitely have unconscious programs for
Yeah,
everything that we do and how we show up, how we manage stress, how we manage, the people pleasing stuff that we've got, perfectionist stuff that we've got, all of that unconscious patterns that we have. And so I studied NLP to help lawyers make sustainable change, really
right.
change from the inside out, so that
Yeah,
they're not just changing on the surface by way of behavior, but they're changing the programming that promotes the behavior. And then the behavior just follows. So that's why mindset is a bit of my jam,
yeah.
if you like.
And what do you see as the biggest tension points for lawyers, like into that,
Mm,
like in like the world that we're in right now? Like, what's their kind of, is it still
mm.
a very much a hustle type of a culture? Like, what sort of exhaustion?
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Definitely the way that the world is moving, technology, AI, and these generational shifts that we're seeing in law firms are adding that extra pressure to transition and change at a rate or a pace that doesn't feel as comfortable for lawyers as maybe other professionals. So there's a lot of stress and anxiety around it, so there's a lot of um, junior lawyers aren't sure exactly what skills they need to build. They need more feedback. So I'm really seeing the generational divide playing out when I'm coaching
yeah,
the junior
interesting.
lawyers
Yeah,
and the senior leaders who are trying to lead and manage junior lawyers. There's different expectations. We've actually just released a white paper on this very topic. Maybe a bit of a plug for the white paper, but
yeah, love
um,
it.
on generational dynamics. So there's that, managing that generational conversation, and how do we have that. But if I was to, in my space, then our coaches coach in different ways. But in my space, I see a lot of people who are stressed and burnt out,
Yeah,
and a lot of lawyers who are trying to be everything to everyone, can't rest even when they are resting, and just are not happy.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it? Because it's just not going away. And burnout and stress has been around forever in a day, but it feels like every other person you're talking to is just at almost at their wit's end. And
Mm,
it comes to that. It goes back to this soul calling piece for me in terms of,
hmm
what you talk about from an inside out perspective.
hmm
And like even for your first half of your career and my first half, my soul was screaming at me, going, I am done with this. Like I can't continue this way.
Were you in corporate?
I was in corporate. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was in advertising
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh, wow.
communications, and
Yeah.
I wasn't fulfilled. I just felt unfulfilled.
Mm,
And yet I was continuing on the grind. I was continuing on the hustle, and I was burnt out, and I was stressed. And yet, I see it all the time in my own clients, and it's like,
mm,
a lot of the time, it's like, what's the block? What's the block from
mm,
kind of finding or navigating your way out
mm,
of it? Because I think when
mm,
you're in it, when
mm,
you're so stuck in it, you
mm.
just can't see the light. And so you would probably see that with a lot of people that you're coaching in terms of that stress and that burnout piece.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And when people are in that space, they're in survival, right? So they're not activating their full bank of resources.
Yeah,
So they're not really at their best self. They're just in survival. It's day by day. It's just trying to get through the grind. It's just trying not to die on the job, basically, metaphorically speaking, just sort of getting through day by day. And so they're not making the best decisions for themselves. It's like I just don't want to be here, or I don't want to be doing this, or I don't want to feel this way. And when you ask them, what do you want instead? A lot of the times they're not sure because they're not in that creative, uh, dreaming. I can't think of the word right now, but they're not in that space of thinking about, oh, really, what would fulfill me? What would be good for me? What would I like to do in my second half of whatever, or in my the rest of my career? It's just I just don't want to feel this pain, right? And that's not always the best place to be in to make decisions. And so part of what I do when somebody is feeling that way and comes to me and says, I want you to help me. I don't think law is for me anymore. And I'm thinking, maybe, I don't know, I never know, but maybe there's also something, instead of looking forwards right now, you need to look inwards and see what you need to learn from this experience because it's not always the environment, it's not
No.
always what's happening around you. That stuff's trying to teach you something about you. So, is that the best time to make a decision? Probably not. So then if I help them feel better, become more resourceful, become more themselves, that's a much better position to then make a decision about where to from here. And sometimes, a lot of the time, actually, they stay.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I've got a question just dropped into me, and I've been wanting to
Yeah.
talk to a fellow coach about this in terms of do you do you ever come across almost like what we were talking about when you're operating in this survival mode that people have this tendency when they're stuck. And even the thought of having a coach or somebody
Mm,
supporting or
mm,
guiding them is just another thing to add to their plate.
mm.
Have you like what's your thoughts
Yeah.
and view on that? Almost like I mean it's very different to the generational thing, but it's almost like there's this tension in terms of they know they need somebody to support them, help them, guide them, but yet the thought of taking on another load or actually doing the work, which I think was ultimately me at some points in my first half of my career when I was just like,
Mm,
I'm just
hmm
getting through the day. What's your
hmm
what's your view on that? And I don't know if my question's making sense, but
No,
it's a question and I guess, a perspective, if you like, that,
yeah, it's an interesting question because we really only see the people who reach out. So they've
yeah,
been stuck long enough for them to be like, not another minute. I cannot do
yeah,
this
okay,
for one more second. Sometimes, though, they make that decision, they come to us, and then that old pattern of, but nothing's going to change for me kicks in. I've coached people where they're like, oh, I've always been this way. So I'm like, so what are you doing here?
yeah,
What are we doing? Like, if you've always been this way and you don't think you're going to change, like, I'm not a magician, I'm not, if you're not ready for change. So I ask people lots of questions when I'm sort of
yeah,
interviewing them, so to speak, to see whether or not we're a good fit. And one of them is, how important is this to you on a scale of 1 to 10?
mm,
And if I'm hearing something like a 2 or 3 or a 4, then I'm thinking maybe this is not the right time for you. Because if it's not almost, if it's not an 8, 9, or 10 important in your life, then the person is not likely to set themselves up for success for change.
yeah,
And so there's questions about how ready, if, why now? Why are we having this conversation now? Why aren't we having it, whatever, 10 years ago or 2 years from now? Why now? And there's usually something about there's a pivotal point. Right now is the time for me to make the change. So as a coach, there's a small window that we can reach through and help our clients because, they dip like this. So, sometimes they're like, oh my God, no more, but then life gets in the way and they get really comfortable again. And so, oh my God, no more, and then life gets in the way. I don't know if you've had that, but I have people
yeah,
who call
oscillating
me.
for me between survival and thriving,
Yeah,
survival
yeah,
and life gets in the
yeah.
way. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but I've had people who call me, once a year. I'll be like, I really need coaching, da, 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 da. And then I'm like, okay, let's start. And then they go away for another year. Then come, I really need coaching. Okay, let's start. And then, so it's a really tricky thing. But if we can help them through that period of, I really need coaching, and reach through and sort of help them make that change, then we've helped them make a change for a lifetime. It's an investment in themselves that they'll always have. So it's tricky work. It's not easy. And look, at the end of the day, we can only do so much to help someone change. Um, and it's not so much that we are helping them change, it's that we are creating the space for them to know that it's possible.
yeah. I love that, creating the space to know
Mm,
that it is possible because you don't
yeah,
want to be forcing either. They've got to
we
be
can't. Yeah.
we absolutely can't. You know,
Mm,
you
mm,
can't, what is
mm.
it? Draw a horse to water. So when you booked in for the pod, I asked the question around what's one unique experience in life leadership, or
Yeah.
insight in life leadership or business. And you said our unconscious programming, and you talked a little bit about this before, and the impact that has on our results in leadership, career, and life, ways to get in charge of the mind and therefore the results.
Hmm.
Can you talk about that a little bit, especially the ways to get in
Hmm.
charge of the mind? I get a feeling it's something to do with your CPD.
It's
Um,
more NLP than CPD.
well,
It's more
yeah,
just,
the
yeah.
the continuing professional
Oh,
development.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
that piece as
yeah.
well. I mean, I know it's the
Yeah.
NLP piece, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, uh, I see my job as a coach, especially as an NLP coach or a mindset coach, to help people get back in charge of their mind, because then only then they can be in charge of their results, not the other way around. So, um, and a lot of that happens through the unconscious mind. A lot, most of what we do. So by the age of 35, 95% of of how we live our lives is on autopilot.
Mm.
It's unconscious. So 5% of your day is thought of consciously. Imagine, like, everything is done on repeat. That's
Autopilot.
why autopilot. That's why, I don't know if you've noticed, B, but the older we get, the faster time goes. It's
Yeah.
like every year is just a flash. It's like, what's going on? Now, time doesn't move any slower or faster, but our perception of it changes because we are asleep at the wheel for most of it. We get to a place where we're going, how the heck did I get here? So if that's the case, then our results aren't, we're not in charge of our results. They're just happening on autopilot. And so the coaching that I do is help people become conscious of the unconscious.
Mm.
And then they can make decisions about it. So it might be patterns of behavior that they've just run on autopilot for years that aren't working for them anymore. It might be responses to triggers. It might be just ways of doing things. It might be how they manage anxiety and stress. It might be where they focus their attention. It might be how they feel about their role or themselves. Any of that kind of stuff and so much more. Limiting beliefs. I
Yeah.
don't really like that word, but it's there. Beliefs that aren't resourceful, values that are out of order, fear, anxiety, all those kind of things, that they're unconscious responses. And so when we help people recognize what they are and help them rewire those patterns into something a little bit more resourceful, then the result will take care of itself.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes
No,
any
no, no,
sense.
that I love
Yeah.
that. I love that because we it comes back to this inside out, doesn't it?
Mm,
Because we get
mm,
so focused on the external results and
mm-hmm.
that's the driver. And yet the resources all come from within. And
Absolutely.
so how do we get
Absolutely.
back to coming from within, leading from within, living our lives from within versus
Absolutely.
chasing everything else? And I feel like this is where the new world order and what you're doing, what
Mm,
I'm doing is reshaping and redefining what
mm,
success looks like because we have been so ingrained to climb this ladder, this external result equals this, I feel good, but actually we
mm-hmm.
have no control. We have such little control of what's going to happen to us. And if that's anything that I've learned in the last few years in my transition, I'm like, yeah, it's so true. But yet we think we've got so much
Mm.
control, you know?
And the things that we can control, we don't.
No.
That's the problem. We spend all our energy in the things that we can't control, yet the things that we can, like our mind, our emotions, our responses, we just let leave to the survival brain, and then that wreaks all sorts of havoc. But yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So it's important to get back in charge of our mind, redefine success, or at least understand what success means for you, not what everyone else says success should be for you, because only then you can live from your own value system
Yeah.
and live with intention and purpose.
Yeah. With regards to your own mindset, you started coaching advocates 5 years ago.
Hmm.
If you've got a business partner, you've got 22 coaches. That's pretty impressive in
Hmm.
5 years.
Thank
When
you.
you first went out into the business,
Mhm.
was there was there that it's obviously called building, scaling, whatever, but was there points in time where you had to sense check your own mindset, and do you still have to
Mm,
sense check your own
absolutely.
mindset now? Like in terms of, because I know I do, there'll be days when I'm in operating from survival mode, and that amygdala is like, and I'm like, go away. I can see what you're doing right now. And then there's
Mhm.
other days where I'm just completely, but it's that
Absolutely.
constant practicing what you preach, right?
Absolutely. I went through, so there was four of us who set up Coaching Advocates initially, and it was definitely a team effort. It was a big job. So now there's two of us who are directors and the rest are coaches. But um, when I first started coaching, I was under this impression, thank God I snapped out of this, that as a coach, I could never have a negative mindset, that I can never be depressed, that I can never have low days. And that was exhausting. That's that toxic positivity thing that
Yeah,
people talk about. It was just like, you know, I lost my humanity almost. Like, how can I be a coach? No, I'd be an imposter if I'm having a bad day or if I'm, spiraling or whatever. Thank God I did come out of that because I am human first, then I am whatever else I do for a living, right? And so recognizing that has made me a better coach because I can understand what other people are feeling and what they're experiencing and what's going on for them. I can speak from experience. I could say, you know what, last week was a really bad week for me because I had this and this and this and this going on. You know what? This is how I pulled myself out of it.
yeah,
And you can too. Otherwise, we're living this false sort of identity of being superhuman almost to the point where it starts to cause us, well, for me anyway, it started to cause me some mental health issues.
yeah.
So, snapped out of that quick smart. Absolutely, you got to check yourself, check your own mindset, use what you learn. And sometimes I just go, you know what? I just want to feel crap today.
Yeah, I love, what, it's so true because I love that you're sharing this because I think we need to be sharing more of this more often. It's
Yeah.
lived experience, coaches, aren't always up that, we're all we're
Mm-mm,
absolutely human as well.
mm-mm,
And the ability to be able to share that with your clients, I think it makes them feel like, oh, okay, well, this is
mm,
normal having
mm,
these days or these weeks or these
mm,
seasons where,
mm.
you might not be shining your brightest or, feeling and performing at your best. And
Yeah,
that's okay.
absolutely
I think
okay.
that comes back to going back to
Mm,
within and going, what's going on in here and what do I need
mm.
to sense check on or become aware of. And that's the only way we evolve and grow, right?
Absolutely. We've got to be able to, sit with whatever discomfort we're feeling, learn from whatever emotion we're having. Yeah, sure, we can learn to manage that as well, but it's got information in it. If I'm having a bad day, there's something in that.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling friction or anxiety or stress or something that's just not sitting well with me, I'm like, what is that telling me? Rather than go, oh no, I must not feel those things because I'm a coach, and then just kind of move on to being all pumped up and happy. Here's a little, I'm sure you know this, and maybe your listeners do too, but no one is happy all the time.
So I know. It's kind of like you say, back to that toxic positive. If you are, I
No,
think there's something wrong.
yes, no one is. In fact, I was listening to someone the other day on a podcast who said, she believes in the world of thirds. She said a third of the time you will be peaking, like, I'm pumped, I'm ready to go, blah, blah, blah. A third of the time you might be a bit meh, yeah, it's okay. And a third of the time might be really, really bad. And that's okay because, when that third of really, really bad happens, you're like, it's just a third. I'm going to get through it. There'll be other times when I'm, feeling better or whatever. But if anyone says to you, oh yeah, I'm like, I feel amazing all the time. I never have any down moments. They're lying.
I agree. It's good. Do you know what I call it? I call it that pass the salt relationship. Like when you're sitting at the dinner table or something and you just pass the salt and pepper and no one's really communicating. I don't
Yeah.
think you've ever sat in one of those. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're shuffling
Yeah.
things through
Mm,
versus, being real and raw. And at the end of the
mm,
day, it's all about evolution. It's all about change.
mm,
It's all about
mm.
growth, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Two last final questions for you.
Sure.
What do you see as the biggest opportunity in the coaching space as we go forward, given the world we are currently living in right now? AI
Mm,
is coming through at a rapid pace, lots of
hmm
change in, roles but yet there's
mm.
also this really big opportunity I think in human potential. Yeah, what do you
I
see as
think. I think coaching is about to explode personally. I think that it's been kind of idling for many years where, and there was a little bit of bad press about it for a little while, especially after COVID, where everyone sort of decided to become a coach and some of them weren't very good. And anyway, all this sort of stuff started to come out about coaching that wasn't all good. But I think in terms of the corporate executive coaching space, I think it's about to explode. And the reason is technology and AI is forcing industry and profession to move at a much faster rate than ever before. You know, the good old days of ChatGPT are almost over. You know, we're moving into whatever's, you know, there's like huge amounts of platforms and software that are developed every second. It's crazy. So all that is going to impact how we do our work, and it's going to impact how we value our work.
Mm.
And the human nature or the human side of what we do could potentially become the only thing we have to differentiate ourselves in terms of our quality of work. So, you know, especially in for lawyers, we used to pride ourselves on technical skills, you know, really being technicians of the law, understand, and that's still very true. You still need to be very good because AI can't be the lawyer. You have to be the lawyer. But the stuff like, you know, drafting documents or affidavits or shuffling through disclosure documents and all that stuff that people used to be like, I'm really good at the detail, I'm really good at the drafting, I'm really good at AI will do that. And it's going to do that a lot better than we can.
Yeah.
And so then that may not be a differentiator for too much longer. And so people are going to need some coaching to build some skills, some awareness, and some human qualities
And
that
critical thinking, like
and critical thinking.
critical thinking skills as well, you know, a
Absolutely.
different form of thinking,
Yeah.
problem solving. Mm.
Mm. And to help us navigate this change, absolutely, and to help us kind of move forward. And because there's more and more coaches coming out on the scene, it's a good thing because people are more exposed to it. They know more about it than what it is. We're slowly catching up to America and Europe when it comes to coaching and understanding and valuing what it is and how it works. So I think there's great potential for coaching in Australia over the next sort of 5 years or so.
Yeah, that's good. It's great to hear that. I haven't actually asked that question, so it's interesting to get your
Yeah.
thoughts on that. And then what would be one piece of advice? We're going to hit hump day tomorrow, so Wednesday midweek.
Hmm.
So starting the week off, you know, all kind of up here, and then you come to Wednesday and you're plateauing down to here, and that amygdala, the back of your brain, is starting to kind of mess with your mindset, your performance is plateauing. What would be one tip or piece of advice you would give someone falling into that hump day on a Wednesday?
It'd be set your intention for the day. So if you know in the past hump day's been one that's been, you know, not a great day for you, start early on that day and set your intention. It might be an intention to feel a certain way, an intention to show up in a certain way that you know would be far more resourceful than if you just let hump day take its course. But if you stay in charge of that and you set your intention and pay your intention attention, it will change the results that you find during the day.
Oh, you're amazing, Lara. I love this. I feel like I've got
Oh.
a bit of a coaching session myself. Coaches need coaching sessions themselves, don't they?
Oh,
Like,
I have a couple of coaches. Yeah,
same.
I never go without.
No, neither. How do we find out more about coaching advocates? Obviously, you've got the QR code, but yeah, how do we find out more about you and how do we find out more about the coaching
Yeah.
advocates?
So you can find us on coachingadvocates.com, our website. You can follow us on LinkedIn. You can follow me on LinkedIn, just Lara Wentworth on LinkedIn, or on, gosh, I don't know what an Insta handle is. I guess it's coaching underscore advocates. That's what it is. But we're all over social media. We're on the website. If you just Google us, you'll find us everywhere.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. What a joy
Pleasure.
being talking to you. I've loved every
Thank
bit
you.
of it and
Me
I
too.
enjoyed the birds chirping and my dog
Oh,
barking. So gotta love a little bit of
it's a
nature, don't
zoo.
you?
It's real.
Have a lovely afternoon, Lara, and
Thank you,
thank you
Bea.
for
You
your
too.
time. I really appreciated it.
Absolutely. Lovely, lovely to meet you. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you.